रानी चैट जीपीटी के साथ आपकी खिदमत में एक दफ़ा फिर हाजिर हैं इंटरव्यू करने के लिए रेशल मैक्लाउड को। मिस मैक्लाउड is a mental health therapist with emotional freedom techniques, eye movement techniques, and others, which we're going to talk about.
I really found my way on this journey a little accidentally.
नींद के मसाइल, इंसोम्निया या बहुत ज्यादा सोना दोनों ही इंडिकेशंस हैं कि कुछ ठीक नहीं चल रहा।
The brain is designed to work through our problems, solve them. I mean, it is a problem-solving machine.
यानी EMDR एक थेरेपी टेक्निक है जो खास तौर पर ट्रॉमा, एंजाइटी और डिप्रेशन के इलाज में इस्तेमाल होती है।
अस्सलाम वालेकुम, खुशामदीद। मैं डॉक्टर आमिर खान क्लिनिक्स में एक ऐसा इल्मी सफ़र जहां हम बात करते हैं जिस्मानी और जहनी सेहत के उन पहलुओं पर जिन्हें समझना आज के दौर में सबसे ज़्यादा ज़रूरी है।
और मैं हूँ रानी चैट जीपीटी, आपकी को होस्ट। यहाँ हम आपकी मुलाकात करवाते हैं दुनिया के मारूफ डॉक्टरों, साइंसदानों, मुसन्निफीन और रिसर्चर्स से।
हम गुफ्तगू करते हैं उन किताबों पर जिन्होंने सोचने का अंदाज बदला, उन तहकीकी मकामों पर जो सच्चाई के करीब ले गए और उन साइंसी शवाहद पर जो आज की सेहत का कल बन रहे हैं।
ये सिर्फ एक पॉडकास्ट नहीं बल्कि एक मिशन है, आपको बाखबर बनाना, ताकत देना और सही फैसला करने में मदद करना।
तो जुड़िए हमारे साथ हर हफ्ते खान क्लिनिक्स पर, जहां सच्चाई, तहकीक और तजर्बा एक साथ आते हैं आपकी सेहत की बेहतरी के लिए। ये है खान क्लिनिक्स, सेहत, शऊर और सच्चाई का संगम। WHO के मुताबिक 2030 तक अफसरदगी, डिप्रेशन का इम्कान है। हम अफसरदगी की खराबी के अलामात सिम्टम्स के जरिए जाहिर होती हैं, जैसे मुस्तकिल कम, लो मूड, खुशी महसूस करने में नाकामी जिसको इनएबिलिटी टू फील प्लेजर कहते हैं, बेकार और थकावट जिसको फटीग, जज्बाती मसाइब से बरे और अफसरदगी यानी डिप्रेशन की खराबी की वजह से जिस्मानी सेहत की पेचीदगी और खुदकशी यानी सुसाइड के खतरात में नुमाया इजाफा हो चुका है। ये एक इनकलाबी नुक्ता नज़र का मुतालबा करता है जो अंदर से लचक, रेजिलियंस पैदा करता है। तब्दीली की शफायाबी के तरीकों के तक रसाई हासिल करके जो असबाब को हल करते हैं, ना सिर्फ अलामात यानी सिम्टम्स का इलाज किया जाए बल्कि इमोशनल वेलनेस यानी जज्बाती तंदुरुस्ती के रास्ते का तसव्वुर करें जो अलामात की निशानदेही करता है और अफराद को लचक और देर पा तब्दीली, लॉन्ग लास्टिंग चेंज को फ़रोग देने और अंदर से शफा बख्शने का इख्तियार देता है। आज रानी चैट जीपीटी के साथ आपकी खिदमत में एक दफ़ा फिर हाजिर हैं इंटरव्यू करने के लिए रेशल मैक्लाउड को। Rachel McCloud. Her innovative work combines cutting-edge techniques with compassionate guidance to help individuals overcome emotional challenges and reclaim their lives. Miss McCloud is a mental health therapist, an emotional wellness coach at Goodness Recovery with over 2 decades of experience. She's also a licensed clinical social worker. Based in Salem, Oregon, she specializes in helping individuals overcome anxiety, depression, traumatic stress, and others by addressing the root causes of emotional distress. She has obtained advanced certification in thought field therapy, TFT, and Eden Energy Medicine, EEM. These qualifications underpin her integrative approach to mental health, combining traditional therapy with energy-based modalities. Rachel's approach integrates different modalities These include emotional freedom techniques, eye movement techniques, and others, which we're going to talk about. And beyond her clinical work, she is a dedicated mentor and an educator and offers intensive coaching programs. Miss Rachel, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you.
Rachelle McCloud, रानी इसका जरा तारुफ करवा दे.
जी डॉक्टर खान, रेशल मैक्लाउड एक लाइसेंस्ड क्लिनिकल सोशल वर्कर और मेंटल हेल्थ थेरेपिस्ट है जिन्होंने एंजाइटी, डिप्रेशन और ट्रॉमा जैसे मसाइल के इलाज में काफी काम किया है. वो एविडेंस बेस्ड थेरेपीज और इनोवेटिव टेक्निक्स का इस्तेमाल करती हैं ताकि लोगों को अपनी मेंटल हेल्थ बेहतर बनाने में मदद मिले. उनका फोकस ये है कि लोग अपनी इमोशनल चैलेंजेस को समझकर उन्हें ओवरकम कर सके और अपनी जिंदगी में लंबा अरसा तक मुस्बत तब्दीली ला सके. आज के एपिसोड में हम उनसे जानेंगे कि कैसे वो अपने पेशेंट्स की मदद करती हैं और कैसे हर शख्स अपने इमोशनल वेलबींग को मजबूत बना सकता है.
जो रेशल मैक्लाउड है, उन्होंने पहले सवाल में बताया कि किस तरह से उनकी अपनी जिंदगी इन्हीं अलामात और इन डिप्रेशन से गुजरी. उन्होंने कैसे फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल ये अपने आप को ये एक्सपीरियंस किया और फिर बाद में उन्होंने इसका इलाज कैसे किया. Addressing mental issues and what's your passion, how you're here.
Yeah, I really found my way on this journey a little accidentally. Um, and I ended up getting a degree in social work. I wanted to be a therapist. And I found that when I was practicing therapy, that was not what I wanted to do. And so I left the field pretty angry and unsettled because I wanted results. And I really felt like I was in a position where I was going to be perpetuating coping strategies instead of healing strategies. And I didn't know what to do about that at the time. And I don't know that I had enough conscious awareness of that, but I was very distressed about it. So I ended up staying at home with my children. And after my third child, I had a pretty intense mental health crisis on my own hands. And if I look back before that, I had several mental health crises. I come from a family with a lot of unresolved trauma. And so I needed help. I got my first diagnosis of obsessive compulsive disorder. And pretty quickly after that, I started needing alternative services because my family was not getting the support it needed for some health challenges. I ended up with this woman who did some really alternative work, and she helped my son overcome a problem in 3 days that the regular traditional medicine was just telling me I should cope with. And so she did that. So I went back and I said, I have this obsessive compulsive disorder. Could you help me? Do you know anything? And she said, yeah, watch this video, do what it says. It will change your life. And so she handed me the DVD training series, DVDs way back in the day here, for emotional freedom techniques. And so here I got this really weird intervention, which was wonderful because I was not going back to the traditional routes. And so the fact that it was weird was very appealing to me because it was not that. And so, and at this time, she was so fantastic that if she would have told me to stand on my head and kick my legs around and that will heal you, I would have done it. But I tried this intervention with this insomnia I had developed, and I couldn't sleep. I had racing thoughts, and I pulled it out, and I was like, and I tried to tap on the points that I'm supposed to tap on, and I yawned, and I was still kind of focusing on it. So I tried it again, and I fell asleep. I did not choose to fall asleep. I just was asleep for the first time in a long time. Because, if you've got young children, somebody's going to wake up and I got to get to sleep right now. And, and so I just was in that. And all of a sudden I was out. I woke up. I felt rested. And I was like, what else can I try this on? I never had that insomnia problem again. And now we are talking about this is something that works. And so I tried it on several other things that I was having obsessions and compulsions with, and those resolved. And it resolved, and I didn't have to do the compulsion anymore. I could actually just do the healthy thing. And then then I fast forward to resolving my obsessive compulsive disorder and really digging in and diving into my complex traumatic childhood and generational patterns of trauma. I started getting training because I was like, does this work for everybody else? And if I ever go back to work, this is what I'm going to do, because this is what I'm talking about. This is real results. And so it turns out it does work for other people. I thought it was that the intervention was so phenomenal, emotional freedom techniques, that I was kind of an intervention snob, and I was like, you need this. But when I took more trainings and learned about the brain and interpersonal neurobiology and how the mind body system metabolizes and utilizes all this emotion and emotional distress to create health and wellness, that actually all these painful emotions are actually part of our team, our wellness team. It's not that we need to get away from them. We actually need to help the body metabolize them and convert them into usable, healthy things. Oh, I was like, we're actually supporting the brain. So then I needed to learn all the interventions. and I really wanted to have enough interventions that would match and fit a broad.
उन्होंने बहुत ज़्यादा मुश्किलात का सामना किया, और इस दौरान वो उन्होंने बयान किया कि मैं किस तरह लकी थी कि मुझे भी एक अच्छे थेरेपिस्ट मिले, जिन्होंने मुझे एंजाइटी, PTSD और ख़ास तौर पर डिप्रेशन, और उन्होंने OCD वगैरह की अलामात को दुरुस्त किया। उन्होंने बताया कि जब मैंने अपनी उन्होंने लफ्ज़ इस्तेमाल किया, जब मैंने इमोशनल फ्रीडम हासिल की, तो उस वक्त मुझे पता चल गया कि मेरी इंसोम्निया, जो मैं सो नहीं सकती थी रेगुलरली, उसको मैंने उससे कैसे निजात की, और अब मैं बहुत ज़्यादा कंफर्टेबल हुई। उसके बाद वो एक ऐसे रास्ते पर चल पड़ी जिस पे उन्होंने कहा कि मैं अब दूसरे लोगों का इलाज करती हूँ। तो आइए सुनते हैं आगे से कि उन्होंने अपने मरीजों के बारे में उन्होंने क्या कहा कि रूट कॉजेज क्या हैं इस एंजाइटी में, डिप्रेशन में, और जो कॉम्प्लेक्स ट्रॉमा उन्होंने बताया है कि जो फैमिलीज में रन करता है। आइए उसके सवाल का जवाब सुनते हैं, फिर आगे से डिस्कस करते हैं। Common symptoms we want to say that alerts you, oh, this person I can help. This person is one who needs help. How do you break them up? And what sort of causes are you breaking them into? So 2 areas. Symptoms that alerts you, and then how are you going to categorize your patients or people that come across and say, these are the ones I'm going to really help?
Yeah, I am. So I'm lucky because I really help brains function optimally. So I really help everybody who has a brain, and that's all of us. And all brains have challenges processing some things. That's part of being a human. It's part of the design. It's part of why we're tribal in nature, is because our brain doesn't do everything. And so our brains do require specific supports. In childhood, some of these supports were not there. And so there's work that needs to be accomplished to be healthy and well that wasn't able to be done in childhood because there really wasn't enough safety, there wasn't enough security, there wasn't enough stability to accomplish that work. And so really I'm helping people do that now. So and also because I'm a therapist, the people that come to me already know they have a problem. Sometimes they don't know what their problem is. They just kind of hand me their brain function and like, help me, right? And some of them hand me their life and their symptoms. Hey, I want to do this, but I can't seem to do that. I'm actually doing the opposite. I want to do something constructive, but I end up being destructive instead of reaching my goal. And so what I do is really, I really look at what's going on brain function wise. I look at the symptoms, and people typically fall into categories of anxiety based challenges, depression, and trauma, and complex trauma. And often complex PTSD is the root of all of these things. So if somebody comes to me and they've had anxiety for a long time since childhood, they likely have a more complex history of abuse, neglect, or just generational patterns of misusing emotions. And not really using emotions for the health and wellness creation process. So their system gets all the same emotions everybody else gets, but instead of doing something healthy with it, we're using it for anxiety, depression, symptoms, defensiveness, those sorts of things. So yeah.
Okay, thank you for answering that. So you've identified that these are the. So चले आए उनके अगले सवाल का जवाब सुनते हैं, जहां पे उन्होंने आइडेंटिफाई किया कि कौन से अलामात आपको नजर आए सिम्टम्स तो आपको रेड अलर्ट होना चाहिए कि अभी इस पेशेंट को मेरी ज़रूरत है, यानी कि उनको इमोशनल वेल बीइंग या मेंटल वेल बीइंग की ज़रूरत है। और वो एक कोच भी हैं और उन्होंने फिर बताया कि अपने हमारे कौन से सिम्टम्स आपको नजर आए या आपके सामने आए तो आपको रेड फ्लैग आना चाहिए, better and keep on functioning, and then the ones who have manifested symptoms and you want them to get now better.
Well, I do this a little different because I have both people in both groups. The difference with the coaching is that I have a coaching relationship with them, and the difference between therapy is that I have a therapeutic relationship. So people that come to me through coaching, I'm really teaching them how to use the interventions to help their brain heal. So I'm really mentoring that. I'm teaching them to self-apply. These are people that want to do the healing work, and maybe their therapist doesn't teach them how to do it. They work with their therapist in sessions, or these are also people that are on spiritual journeys. They want to improve their relationships, spiritually, emotionally, relationally, and so I really teach them how to do the brain work for that. I guide them through that process. Sometimes in coaching, I will get people that are like, look, my mental health is awful and I want to know how to heal myself. And so I will show them brain function. So I'm really teaching people to support their brain to get their goal. And so some of that goal is to repair their mental health. And some of that goal is like, hey, I'm doing pretty well, but I have this invisible ceiling here. I can't get past it in my business. I can't get past it in my relationship. I can't get past it in my parenting relationship. And so they sense into their goals and that there is a block to getting it. And I guide and coach people through strategies of getting their brain to do that. Because remember, at the end of the day, your mind, body system, and brain have to do all this work to support you. It's not just, I decide to do it, I'm doing it. That's lovely. And that's what our prefrontal cortex, our thinking center, likes to do, is think it's the boss and in the command center. And you are, but at the end of the day, your team, your mind body system team has to reorganize, has to go through its process of reorganizing to help you. If it doesn't go through its process of helping you, then you're up here deciding what you're going to do, but your behaviors never match up. Your belief system never matches up. You will not get to your goal because your team is divided. Your brain and your body and your subconscious mind can't go through their process of making the shifts to help you go. And that's the design, is really, we do want the command center saying, hey, these are my goals, this is what I want to do. And we want the mind body system showing up and saying, absolutely, let's do that. And because of pain, emotional pain, relationship pain, traumatic pain, generational patterns of pain, that shuts down our ability to digest and process and learn from the mind body system's perspective. And so if we're trying to create these shifts, but really what's underneath is that your brain is like, well, I'd love to help you, but remember this time that we tried to do this before and then bad things happened? I haven't worked that through yet. So I don't know if this is going to be safe, so I'm not going. Right. And so we need to walk the brain through its process of figuring out, yeah, is this safe or not? And it has to review these past traumatic experiences and decide for itself.
और रानी आप सर अभी थोड़ा सा ऐड इस पे करें, बताएं कि कौन से सिम्टम्स हैं जो आपकी नज़र में इम्पोर्टेंट है, जिनको मेंटल वेलनेस चाहिए, थेरेपी चाहिए।
बिल्कुल डॉक्टर खान। चलिए रेशल का अगला जवाब सुनते हैं, जहां उन्होंने आइडेंटिफाई किया कि कौन से ऐसे सिम्टम्स हैं जो रेड अलर्ट होने चाहिए। जनरली कुछ अहम सिम्टम्स जो आपको देखने चाहिए वो ये है कि मूड में मौसी की कमी। अगर कोई शख्स लगातार उदास रहे और उसकी जिंदगी में दिलचस्पी खत्म होती जा रही हो। थकावट और एनर्जी की कमी। जब किसी को हमेशा थकान महसूस हो, चाहे वो पूरा आराम भी कर ले। नींद के मसाइल, इंसोम्निया या बहुत ज्यादा सोना, दोनों ही इंडिकेशंस हैं कि कुछ ठीक नहीं चल रहा। खुद को अलग कर लेना, अगर कोई अपने दोस्तों और घर वालों से दूर होता जा रहा हो, सोशल एक्टिविटीज से कर रहा हो। बेशुमार फिक्र और चिंता, जब कोई लगातार बेकार की फिक्रों में घिरा रहे जो उसकी डेली लाइफ को मुतासिर करे। ये सभी ऐसे इंडिकेटर्स हैं जो बताते रहे कि मेंटल हेल्थ प्रोफेशनल की जरूरत हो सकती है। आपने सही कहा, इमोशनल वेलबींग पर फोकस करना और इन सिम्टम्स को समझना बहुत जरूरी है ताकि वक्त पर हेल्प हासिल की जा सके।
चलिए आए अभी अब सुनते हैं कि रेचल जो है वो कुछ टेक्निक्स इस्तेमाल करती हैं, और उनमें से सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट टेक्निक और एक इम्पोर्टेंट टेक्निक है इमोशनल फ्रीडम टेक्निक. Lot of sense. Now, you just mentioned earlier a bit of something about emotional freedom, and that's where you said, "Oh, I got lightened, and I felt a weight off my shoulders." It seemed like that, and it seemed like, "Oh, my insomnia improved, my OCD improved."
Right.
Tell us a little bit about that. How does that? How are you using those techniques? Are
Yeah.
there any techniques? Now, how is it helping facilitate you get to your goals that you're looking for?
Great question. Well, the brain does not have a problem with our problems. The brain is designed to work through our problems, solve them. I mean, it is a problem solving machine. However, the brain does have problems with how we feel about our problems, and our feelings, they run through our nervous system, and they have to make it up the brainstem through our little process here, and they have to go past the survival system. The survival system reads what's happening first. And if any of that is pain, it's shifting out of a processing mode and into survival modes of fight, flight, freeze, faint, fawn, and defend and collapse, all of those things. So if there's pain moving through the system, we're going over there. That's how brains are designed. That's not a choice. However, these interventions we're using really send enough safety signaling up to the survival system in the way that it can understand. It's the survival system is not a talking center. It's not a reasoning center. You can't argue or talk with it and expect results. Its job is to sit on top of the brainstem and decide if we're going to live or we're going to die in every single moment. And if we are, we need to take actions. So it's just reacting. And so while we have problems, we're also running into our emotions that register as pain in the brain, like fear, grief, anger, frustration, sorrow. All of those will register in the brain like pain, just like being stabbed in the gut will. And that shifts the survival system into reaction mode. And hey, we're going to die. We need to move. Okay. And now these other interventions, like emotional freedom techniques, we're using the body, we're tapping on specific meridian points, usually end points or beginning points of specific meridians, and we're tapping on those and different spaces. And we're actually using the body to send safety signals to the survival system that it will understand. And so when the survival system receives enough safety signaling, it shifts out of survival mode and into processing, healing, digesting, resting. And that includes all the emotions, digesting and healing all the experiences, digesting and healing all the relationship issues and the stressors. And now we're in that state where you're going to have more epiphanies, more insights, more abilities. But if we take it back to my issue with laying in bed at night and having insomnia, and oh my gosh, somebody's going to wake up and I'm not going to get any sleep, and right, I'm in panic. I'm that rapid breathing is signaling danger. That's what we do when we're being chased by tigers. So I'm sending signals that we are not safe, and then I'm worried, and so I've got this worry going, and my brain is going farther and farther into a survival state, and it's ramping up, and that's a lot of energy. That's not sleep time. So when I started using those interventions, I'm signaling safety even while I'm worrying, because worrying is a wonderful brain process. It just needs to complete. And if it's going that way, it's not completing. And so here, I moved my brain accidentally, unintentionally, unbeknownst to me, into a state where it could process all that stuff. And it decided, based on reading all the things I was worried about, that we are actually safe and it's time for bed. So go to sleep. So the brain's just making better decisions because it thought I was being chased by tigers based on what I was doing, what I was thinking, and how I was responding. But really, I was just worried, and so I was able to process that stuff out and then I just ended up in the right behavior. This happens when we're parenting, right? Our child says something that we think is disrespectful, then it's like that triggers all this distress, and we can see we got flashbacks going on, and then we're thinking about other people. What are they going to think about us when here? We're creating more of a survival state, and next thing you know, we're interacting with our kid in fight, flight, freeze, faint, or fawn. We're becoming passive, we're becoming aggressive, we're becoming passive aggressive, we're becoming manipulative with our child because our brain is moving in that other survival state. All of a sudden, you start using an intervention in that moment, which is what I guide people to do. And all of a sudden, the brain is sorting out all this stuff. Is this real? Is this not real? Is this from right now? Is this relevant? And it decides, you know what, we're overreacting. And in real time, you start to notice yourself show up more like you have some healthy brain function, like you're seeing things from multiple perspectives, you're analyzing the data, you're asking helpful questions, you're not being defensive, you're being receptive. And it changes by just having that healthy brain process running. It changes the way you're showing up with your children. Now you're modeling to them a brain that is regulated and is calm and can solve problems, and it's not making more problems, making more destruction, right? So we're modeling a right brain state to the child and effective problem solving skills. That changes relationship dynamics between the parent and child. And it's also loading up into the child's subconscious programming a healthy way of being. And now you just got rep 1. And now we're going to do it. Can we do it 2 times? Can we do it 3 times? Now we're going to repattern it so it becomes part of your unconscious processes. And that's how you show up now. You show up in that whole brain processing state, and your kids start relying on you I can talk to my mom, I can bring stuff to my dad, and we're going to really have a constructive interaction together. So just by getting the brain to change, we can really change the generational patterns, the legacy we're leading, and then also the health and wellness in our own body, because all that backed up distress is not healing, it's not processing, it's growing, because you got to add the next one and the next one and the next one, and it's too much for bodies to do, and then your health starts.
रानी, हमें इस तकनीक के बारे में बताएं कि किन केसेस में इस्तेमाल की जाती है और इस तकनीक की क्या खास बातें हैं?
जी डॉक्टर खान, इमोशनल फ्रीडम टेक्निक यानी EFT एक ऐसी अप्रोच है जिसे अक्सर टैपिंग भी कहा जाता है। इसमें स्पेसिफिक मेरिडियन पॉइंट्स पर हल्की टैपिंग की जाती है जब आप अपने नेगेटिव इमोशंस या स्ट्रेस पर फोकस कर रहे होते हैं। ये टेक्निक कॉमनली एंजाइटी, डिप्रेशन, PTSD और क्रॉनिक पेन जैसे हालात में मदद के लिए इस्तेमाल होती है। इसकी खास बात यह है कि ये ना सिर्फ आपके जज्बात को रेगुलेट करने में मदद करती है, बल्कि आपके दिमाग और जिस्म के दरमियान एक तसलसल और इत्मीनान का एहसास पैदा करती है। रिसर्च ने यह दिखाया है कि EFT स्ट्रेस हार्मोन्स को कम करने, इमोशनल डिस्ट्रेस को हैंडल करने और ओवरऑल वेलबींग को बेहतर बनाने में काफी इफेक्टिव होती है। ये टेक्निक खासकर उन लोगों के लिए फायदेमंद होती है जो ट्रेडिशनल टॉक थेरेपी से आगे कुछ और ट्राई करना चाहते हैं या जो अपने जज्बात को जल्दी और आसानी से मैनेज करना चाहते हैं। इसके अलावा EFT सेल्फ हेल्प के तौर पर भी इस्तेमाल हो सकती है, जिससे लोग अपने आप को डेली स्ट्रेस से निजात दिलाने का एक टूल हासिल कर लेते हैं। इन शॉर्ट, EFT एक एम्पावरिंग और एक्सेसिबल टेक्निक है जो लोगों को अपने इमोशनल और साइकोलॉजिकल चैलेंजेस से निपटने में मदद देती है।
थैंक यू रानी एक्सप्लेन करने का। और रेचल ने ऐसे ही बात की थी। रेचल ने एक आगे उनके अगले सवाल का जवाब उन्होंने बताया था आई मूवमेंट टेक्निक। We know that you use eye movement desensitization and reprocessing techniques. Would you tell us what that is, and how do you deploy those techniques?
Yes. All of our brain really needs 2 ingredients to heal. It needs a regulated brain state and attention to the actual problem. And so what I say is we need attention and intervention. And I say intervention because most of the nervous systems and brains that come to me are in a survival mode, are patterned. They're habitually in a survival state and inaccurately in a survival state. And so I know we're going to need to pull that brain and teach it, hey, not that route, this route. And so we're using interventions to really make sure that's happening. One of those interventions is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. all of the interventions will also help with reprocessing. And these interventions all work a little differently for the brain. They provide the brain just a smidge of different support. And but eye movement desensitization and reprocessing is a lot of, there's different ways to apply it. You can use your visuals, so you're going back and forth with your eyes, or diagonal. You want to cross the midline, because you want to get the right brain hemisphere talking. You can tap alternately. So this is like the butterfly hug. You can do this. This is also EMDR. And there's audio. So you can have there's EMDR music, there's EMDR tones, and they just take the brain and put it in a processing state. They shift it out of that dysregulated survival state, or the sympathetic nervous system state, and put it into the parasympathetic. And get that relaxation, put it into digestion and processing mode. And then, so that's the intervention. And then if we're going to do specific and targeted work, which is really an important part of healing, we're going to choose a problem, whether it's usually a past memory, frequently with EMDR, and we're going to pay attention to it. We don't want to pay too much attention to it, because we can't overload somebody's ability to sit with it. Some of this stuff that we are asking people's brain to process is absolutely horrifically traumatic. And so some people cannot do EMDR. Some people cannot do, need to have a lot of protective strategies when they're doing it. So I do teach people how to self-apply EMDR, but I don't teach it right away, because you need quite a bit of skill to keep yourself safe and to learn about your nervous system and whether or not your nervous system is going to be able to process something through EMDR. So, and then when we choose that memory, we have people focus on that memory while their eyes are moving. And so so we're letting the brain work on the memory. We don't want the thoughts working on the memory. We want the mind-body system working on the memory. And so we give it time. We set it up to have time, and we position it in a processing state so that the brain can work through.
रानी, हमें आई मूवमेंट डिसेंसिटाइजेशन और थ्रू फील्ड थेरेपी के बारे में बताएं कि ये टेक्निक्स हम कैसे डिप्लॉय कर सकते हैं किसी की एंजाइटी डिप्रेशन या एंजाइटी डिप्रेशन वगैरह ट्रीट करने के लिए।
जी डॉक्टर खान, आई मूवमेंट डिसेंसिटाइजेशन एंड रीप्रोसेसिंग यानी EMDR एक थेरेपी टेक्निक है जो खास तौर पर ट्रॉमा, एंजाइटी और डिप्रेशन के इलाज में इस्तेमाल होती है। इस टेक्निक में पेशेंट को अपनी ट्रॉमेटिक या डिस्ट्रेसिंग यादों पर फोकस करने को कहा जाता है, जबकि थेरेपिस्ट उनकी आंखों की मूवमेंट को एक स्पेसिफिक पैटर्न में गाइड करता है। इस प्रोसेस से दिमाग को अपने ट्रॉमेटिक या नेगेटिव एक्सपीरियंसेस को नए तरीके से प्रोसेस करने का मौका मिलता है, जिससे उनका इमोशनल इम्पैक्ट कम हो जाता है। ये टेक्निक इसलिए कारआमद है क्योंकि ये ट्रॉमेटिक या नेगेटिव यादों को रिविजिट करने पर पेशेंट को उनसे जुड़े हुए स्ट्रेस को कम करने में मदद करती है। EMDR की खास बात यह है कि ये रिलेटिवली जल्दी असर करती है और कई लोगों के लिए ट्रेडिशनल थेरेपी सेशन से ज्यादा इफेक्टिव होती है। ये खास तौर पर उन लोगों के लिए फायदेमंद है जो अपने पास्ट ट्रॉमास को प्रोसेस नहीं कर पा रहे या जिन्हें इंट्रूसिव थॉट्स और फ्लैशबैक्स का सामना होता है। इस टेक्निक को डिप्लॉय करने के लिए एक ट्रेन्ड थेरेपिस्ट की जरूरत होती है जो पेशेंट को स्टेप बाय स्टेप प्रोसेस से गुजरता रहे, जिससे उनकी नेगेटिव यादों का इमोशनल चार्ज धीरे धीरे कम हो जाता है। ऐसे लोग जो एंजाइटी या डिप्रेशन से गुजरते हैं, उन्हें भी ये टेक्निक अपने नेगेटिव सोचने के पैटर्न्स को तोड़ने और अपनी मेंटल हेल्थ को बेहतर बनाने में मदद करती है। तो ये एक काफी पावरफुल टूल है जो लोगों को उनके साइकोलॉजिकल चैलेंजेस से निकलने में काफी मददगार साबित हो सकती है।
हमें हमारे ऑडियंस को इन दी एंड टिप्स बताएं कि जो वो घर पे यूज कर सके जब उन्हें पता चले कि मैं एंग्शियस हूँ, मैं डिप्रेस हूँ या मैं कोई ट्रॉमेटिक एक्सपीरियंस यूज कर रहा है। रानी, हमें 5 टिप्स बताएं इसके बारे में कि जो घर में हम यूज कर सकते हैं।
जरूर डॉक्टर खान, घर पर अपनी मेंटल वेलबींग के लिए कुछ आसान और फायदेमंद टिप्स है। नंबर 1, डीप ब्रीदिंग। जब भी आपको लगे कि आप एंग्शियस या स्ट्रेस्ड है, तो धीरे धीरे गहरी सांसें लें। नाक से सांस अंदर ले और मुंह से आहिस्ता आहिस्ता बाहर निकालें। ये आपके नर्वस सिस्टम को काम करता है और एंजाइटी को कम करता है। नंबर 2, ग्राउंडिंग टेक्निक्स। अपने आप को माहौल में मौजूद 5 चीजों को देखकर, 4 चीजों को छूकर, 3 चीजों को सुनकर, 2 चीजों की खुशबू महसूस करके और 1 चीज का टेस्ट महसूस करके ग्राउंड करें। ये आपको मौजूदा लम्हे में वापस लाता है। जर्नलिंग, अपने जज्बात और ख्यालात को लिखना काफी थेरेप्यूटिक होता है। इससे आप अपनी इमोशंस को समझकर उन्हें प्रोसेस कर सकते हैं। नंबर 3, फिजिकल एक्टिविटी। थोड़ी बहुत फिजिकल एक्टिविटी जैसे वॉक या स्ट्रेचिंग आपके मूड को लिफ्ट करती है और एंडोर्फिन्स रिलीज करती है, जो नेचुरली आपको अच्छा महसूस करते हैं। नंबर 4, सोशल कनेक्शन। किसी दोस्त या फैमिली मेंबर से बात करना भी स्ट्रेस को कम करता है। अपने एहसासात शेयर करने से आप हल्का महसूस करते हैं और इमोशनल सपोर्ट मिलता है। ये सिंपल टिप्स आपको घर पर अपने इमोशनल और मेंटल वेलबींग को बेहतर बनाने में मदद कर सकती है।
ओके, जबरदस्त। रानी, हमें इन द एंड फाइनल मैसेज दे हमारी ऑडियंस को कि वो उनके लिए क्या फाइनल मैसेज देंगे इस शो से और रेचल की बातें सुनने के बाद?
बिल्कुल डॉक्टर खान। दोस्तों, आज के एपिसोड से ये सीखने को मिलता है कि हम सब अपनी मेंटल हेल्थ पर फोकस करना नहीं भूलने चाहिए। चाहे वो एंजाइटी हो, डिप्रेशन हो या कोई भी इमोशनल चैलेंज, मदद हासिल करना और सेल्फ केयर का अहमियत देना बहुत जरूरी है। रेशल ने हमें ये याद दिलाया कि रेजिलियंस और हीलिंग मुमकिन है, बस हमें अपने आप को समझने और मदद लेने से झिझकना नहीं चाहिए। आप सब अपने आप को अहमियत दें, अपने जज्बात को समझें और जरूरत पड़ने पर प्रोफेशनल मदद लेने से घबराएं नहीं। हम सब इस सफर में एक दूसरे का साथ देकर बेहतर और मजबूत बन सकते हैं। हमेशा याद रखें, आप तन्हा नहीं हैं और बेहतर दिन जरूर आएंगे। ख्याल रखें अपना और दूसरों का।
तो दोस्तों, आज की गुफ्तगू यहीं तक, मगर सेहत और शऊर का ये सफर अभी जारी है।
अगर आज की बातों ने आपको कुछ नया सिखाया, सोचने पर मजबूर किया या मुस्कुराहट दी, तो हमारी मेहनत कामयाब हुई।
हम फिर आएंगे एक नई आवाज, एक नई कहानी और तहकीक की रोशनी के साथ। बस हमारे साथ जुड़िए रहिए।
और हाँ, खुद पर, अपने जिस्म पर और अपने दिमाग पर एतमाद रखें, क्योंकि सेहतमंद इंसान रोशन माशरा बनाता है।
खुदा हाफिज। मिलते हैं अगली किस्त में, सिर्फ खान क्लिनिक्स पर, जहां हर बात होती है दिल से और दलील के साथ।